So this crazy life for me really started about 5 years ago when I decided to leave my life behind in Australia and move to the other side of the world. So I grew up in Adelaide in the south of Australia in a family that was pretty large. I have 2 sisters and 5 brothers and my parents, and lived there till I was 19 years old. Music started for me when I was a kid. I played trumpet for a long time until I was about 12, 13. I was like a bit more serious about that. And then I fell in love with the guitar when I was 14 actually, so I started a little bit later than I feel like most people started music. And that's, yeah, became my interest and love, and I've been playing guitar ever since. Performing as a kid was not like the most natural thing for me, and I was a pretty shy kid actually. It was not something that I was in love with doing at all. But yeah, with time, I guess, from performing at school events or just like random shows in Adelaide, I became a lot more comfortable with it and kind of ended up falling in love with it. So those first 2 years that I was in London, I was really trying to, I guess, build the thing that I moved there for, and I ended up playing a lot of street shows and playing festivals and a range of like different events, whilst, you know, trying to figure out how to like be a totally independent person for the first time in life, I guess. So yeah, it wasn't the most always easy time, but it was a good time of building and some of the fondest times and years of my life. For the last 3 years now since moving out of London, I've been living in this baby, and it was never like a dream for me to like move into a van and kind of be based from that. I was actually in Australia for a holiday, and I was meant to meet a friend from Spain who was coming over to travel with me up the East Coast because I had never explored that as well. And he actually missed his flight, so I ended up just doing the trip alone, and I decided I had like a little station wagon that I ended up sleeping in just because it was so much easier and cheaper, and I was traveling alone, so I was like, yeah, whatever. I think we live in a day and age these days that like van life, it's like romanticized in a way, and for me, like moving into it, it was never like that, and I think people these days act as though it's this real, I don't know, it's like a dream, and obviously like I do think like living in a van and the freedom and the simple way of life in a way is a dream, but it's definitely not always as comfortable and nice as like some people think it to be. Especially in wintertime, like, because this has been my main home, a lot of people like go back to their parents' house or something, but my parents live on the other side of the world. So there's been times that I've had to have some pretty cold nights in the van. Usually I like stay at friends' houses or something in the wintertime. But yeah, it's been an interesting kind of experience to learn about living in a new way and having to kind of survive with the little bit smaller that you have. Like, obviously living in a van is in no way sitting on the street being homeless, but yeah, it's definitely not as comfortable all the time. People often ask me if being in a van and living on the other side of the world is like a lonely experience, because especially I travel a lot by myself, and luckily for me, I'm not really the type of person that like constantly needs people around. Obviously, like, people are great, but yeah, it's nice for me to just be able to do my own thing and be in my own head quite a lot. So that's kind of lucky, I guess, that my personality's like that. So my passion with photography came about, I guess, from traveling in the van and seeing some of the most beautiful places in Europe. A lot of that, I guess, is from the music stuff, and I was traveling to different places. I remember in 2015 I traveled to Switzerland to play at a festival in the east of Switzerland, and on the train ride from Zurich to this place Kuhl, it was just the most unreal, seeing the Alps and the lakes, and I remember like being the crazy person on the train with my phone, trying to take as many photos as I could, because I never wanted to like forget that time and those memories. And I think from like little moments like that, photography for me really became a bigger thing that I wanted to have and enjoy, and slowly through that I've become like obsessed with learning about light and composition and trying to capture that in the best way I can. So for the last few years, as like my passion for photography has grown so much more, I sometimes felt like a bit like lost in really like knowing what my focus is, because music was my whole life, and sometimes in a way it still is. And I love performance, and I love playing guitar, and I love, you know, the people I meet through music and that whole thing. But at the same time, I'm totally obsessed with photography these days, and I love doing different little projects, and I love shooting, and I love to travel, and there's so many elements of that I love so much as well. Yeah, it can be a really frustrating thing to sometimes feel like you're in love with these two things and you're not sure what to do, and I guess with time it's just going to fall into place and one will take over, and I guess that's just the natural progression of the whole thing. Living this lifestyle on the road and being based out of like such a tiny little home, and having to figure life out, and especially in countries where you don't speak the language, and not always having someone nearby that you know, or having friends close to you. It's a pretty strange thing, and that can be hard, but at the same time I feel so lucky to be able to do what I love and you know, really push to do my passions full time and share that with other people.